Hi Stampers, my name is Kathy Hansen and today I'm going to show you how to make this really fun fold card. And I got the layout for this card from Mary Knabe, who is a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and you can see her original card at www.stampinpiece.com. That is right here, www.stampinpiece.com. Mary has some wonderful ideas and I really enjoy her videos, and she used totally different paper to make hers, so it has a totally different look. But what I'm using today is actually some free Celebration paper. And I love this paper. Two things that I love most about it are, A, it's free. If you buy a $50 minimum order from the Stampin' Up! Catalogs, you get the paper for free. The second thing I really like about this paper is that normally the paper comes 12 sheets in a package, 12 by 12 card designer paper, and you get 2 sheets of 6 different designs. This time they put 4 sheets of 3 different designs, which is really good if you're making a lot of cards because you won't run out. And these are what the designs look like. This is one of the designs which we're going to be using on this card, and then this is the flip side of that paper. And this is another design. We're also going to be using this on the card. And this is what the flip side looks like. I'm not real sure which way it goes, but you get the idea. And then this is the third design, which is also really a nice design, but I'll be using that for another card later on. And then the flip side of that is polka dots. And they're not perfect polka dots. That's one of the things I like about it. They're just kind of blobby polka dots. So let's get started with this card. To begin with, it opens up. This little sentiment is what's holding it together. So when you open it up, you're going to pull it out from between the 2 tags. It tucks right in here, and then you open it up and here is your card. And I've done a little embossing on the inside of this card as well. So let's get started. The first thing you need is a piece of 5 by 7, I'm sorry, it's 5.5 by 7 inch cardstock, and I chose black. I've already scored it. It's scored at 4.25 inches from the edge, and I'm going to go ahead and fold that down and use my bone folder, which I may not have brought with me, so I can use another thing. I can use my tape dispenser, which works pretty well too, just to make that a nice crisp crease. The second piece, and this will be the flap that comes around, is 3.75 inches by 3 inches, and I've scored it at 1/2 inch right here. So again, I'm going to use my makeshift bone folder, and maybe I'll use the other end and just flatten that out so that it's a nice crisp crease. I've misplaced a lot of things today, so I'll be using a few things that I normally would not be using, but they work as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some score tape in here, and this is the same as the Stampin' Up! Tear-in tape. And I want it to not fall apart, and this is very, very sticky tape. So what I'm going to do is just remove that backing from the tape, and then here you have your adhesive. And I'm going to use my grid sheet, and I'm going to kind of eyeball that to make sure that it's about halfway between the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to set this on top right next to the fold. Well, I'm kind of messing up here a little bit. I don't want to place it on the fold because that will interfere with the opening of the card. So I'm just going to set it right next to that fold. And now what I have is this card. And we're going to add to that. So this piece of paper is 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and I also misplaced my Stampin' Seal, so I'm using my old snail adhesive. And what I did with this is I embossed it with this really fun embossing folder. This is Meadow Moments embossing folder, and there are actually 2 separate embossing folders in here, so there's 2 different designs. And for this card I chose this design because I just wanted the embossed portion to be on the right side of the card, of the paper. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to insert it into this card so that the embossed side is on the right. That looks good. And that's all I did on the inside. I never know for sure what I'm going to put on the inside of a card, so I often leave it blank until I'm ready to go. And I'm also, you may have heard me say this before, I'm a big fan of handwritten notes, so sometimes I never stamp anything on the inside. Now what we're going to do is fold this first flap over, and I'm going to do this one more time. Since I didn't have my bone folder, I want to make sure that I've got that nice and crisp. And I have a piece, I've already cut a piece of the flowered paper, and this piece is 5 1/4 inches from top to bottom, and then it's 2 1/2 inches from side to side. This flap actually, after you cut it, because it was 7 inches wide to begin with, this flap is 2 3/4 inches wide. So let's put a little adhesive on the back here. And that will go right on this flap. And you can kind of line it up with that paper on the inside so that it is all kind of looking like it matches. So then on this side, and again I'm gonna just make sure that's a nice crisp crease. On this side I'm using the piece that I've already cut out of the striped paper, and this piece is 3 1/2 inches tall and 2 1/4 inches wide. And by the way, all of these measurements will be found on kathyscraftroom.blogspot.com. It's kind of gotten out of the way here. I must have shifted a little bit. Okay, kathyscraftroom.blogspot.com, and that will have all the measurements and a list of the ingredients, so you don't have to be writing it down while you're listening to this video. So I'm just going to center that in here, and again I'm kind of lining it up with that white paper below. Okay, there we go. Then I have this flower. This flower I cut from just white basic cardstock, and it is from the Meadow Dies. There's just a bunch of different kinds of flowers in there, which are just gorgeous. So that's what I've used for this. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to use a little bit of my liquid glue, just little dots. You don't need to go crazy with the glue, just a few dots here and there will hold it in place nicely. I want to make sure that I get these stems a little bit on there so they stay in place and don't come loose. So I'm putting a few more dots there. And then I'm not going all the way to the bottom because I'm actually going to snip off a little bit at the bottom so that it lines up with the bottom of the cardstock. And then this piece will go right here. Oh look, I'm missing a flower. Well, I must have picked up the wrong one. I'm going to, however, I'm going to go get that flower, but first I'm going to snip this off right there at the edge so it lines up nicely. I'm going to go grab that flower and I'll be right back. This is actually all one flower. However, when I was cutting it today, the dies, a couple of them, and I think that'll be fine when I put that on there, it should line up nicely. A couple of times the dies broke off, the flowers broke off because it's a very delicate stem holding it on, and apparently I was a little bit rough pulling it out of the die, pulling the paper out of the die. So this should line up right here. There, now we have a complete flower, and no one will ever know the difference. And then what I did with that is I've got some silver metallic pearls, and I took one of those and put it into the center of each one of these flowers, just to give it a little bit more interest. These are self-adhesive pearls, which makes it very easy to add them to a card. So here we are so far. The only thing we're missing at this point is the sentiment. And I pulled the sentiments from Happy Thoughts. Happy Thoughts is a great stamp set. It's got a lot of different greetings, and I'm using actually a retired punch for this, and it's called the let's see, what punch is that? It is the I'll think of it. I can't think of it right offhand, but I'll think of it. It retired a couple of years ago, but any of these greetings will fit inside of that punch. So I've actually also made some, like a thank you, a happy birthday, but I'm going to use thinking of you for this card just because that's an all-round greeting that you can make into a birthday card. You can make it into a sympathy card, a get well card, pretty much anything you want. And what I'm going to do with that, because it kind of disappears on there when you lay it down, so what I did is I took my basic gray marker, my Stampin' Write marker, and using the brush end and going from the back, I just went all the way around the edge just to give it a very thin line. And the reason I do this from the back is because invariably if I try to do it from the front, I slip and I end up with a line like that, which I really don't want. So from the back I have a little more control over it. And I'm going to just continue around with that. And now, oh, see, I just slipped and it went underneath, but luckily, okay, and then that just defines that label a little bit better. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to take my Stampin' Dimensionals. I've got the large ones here. We also have small ones. Stampin' Up! Has small ones. And I'm just going to kind of estimate where I'm going to be putting that. I want to make sure that I get the adhesive under only the left side. So I'm flipping it over this way so I can kind of judge where that's going to fall on the card, and I'm putting in some Stampin' Dimensionals, and then when I remove the backing from those, I want to make sure that this adhesive doesn't land on top of this piece because it'll glue the card shut. Definitely don't want that. So I'm kind of just eyeballing this. Hopefully I'll get it straight. And that's it. That's the card. And it couldn't be easier to make this card. And again, thanks to Mary Kanae, because I have actually seen a lot of her designs that I like. And I usually don't use the same materials that she does, but I do really enjoy her designs, so I have used several of her designs. And this is the finished card. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you take time to go to my blog, get the information off of there for the measurements, and make this card yourself. Thank you.